egotistical ego that you put into the world, you're going to get that shit back in return, and it's not going to be good. Hello, you guys. Welcome to another True Authentics podcast. In today's episode, we're here to talk about ego and its role and how just the flesh, which is the ego, can really not necessarily dictate your life, but how it can destroy your life and how it can make your life. It's always a mindset. And one thing about ego is one heavy-ass mindset. So let's dive right into it. What's up, y'all? It's your boy, Jeremiah Foster, back with another True Authentics episode. And here on the True Authentics podcast, we explore the inspiring journey of authenticity, empowering you to embrace your true self and embark on a transformative path of personal growth. Like I said in the beginning of today's episode, we're here to talk about ego and its role and its purpose, and why do we even have it as human beings? Because we all have an ego. We all have that egotistical to where it's good and it's bad. And we're just going to dive deep into understanding its role and what can we do to necessarily have that positive side of our ego. So, ego. I actually have notes for this. I'm going to look straight to my left real quick to read the notes to you guys so you guys can understand more. Ego, understanding ego. Ego refers to a person's self-identity, experience with self-awareness, and defines a person's thoughts, feelings, and behavior. So yes, your ego defines your thoughts, your feelings, and your behavior. So based off your ego and based off how you're feeling at that moment, that's how you're going to react. That's how you're going to feel, because that's the ego. That's how the ego thinks, you know? And also, ego operates on a conscious level and helps navigate and adapt to a world by primal desires and morals for social standards. So primal desires can be things such as the goals that we have in our life, starting a new business, trying to get in a relationship, trying to get this one woman that we want, you know, having a new job, a new position in our life, going to college, you know, this it plays a role. And another example is you want to start something new, right? And you want to post it on social media. However, you don't want to look crazy. You don't want to look insane to your peers. So that ego, it shies away. That ego wants to shy away from being embarrassed. That ego doesn't want to be embarrassed. That ego doesn't want to be hurt. You know, that ego just wants to be validated. It wants to be seen for something in a positive light instead of a negative light. And another example also is you getting defensive while somebody's talking to you, or, you know, when somebody talks about something you believe in, you feel like you got to go out your way to back it up instead of just leaving that person at peace with whatever they perceive it is, you know? So that's really ego when it comes to whatever we feel like, how we feel at that moment. Ego really determines our thoughts, our feelings, our desires, everything. Depending on how we feel at that moment, depending on the ego that we have towards that thing, the ego is going to come out. So is ego good or bad? Is it good or bad? And to really think on it, too much of anything is bad. You know, too much of anything is bad. And ego is basically, I would say 50-50. You know how you got the yin and yang? That's kind of like ego. You know, you got the peaceful way, then you got the non-peaceful way. You got the chaotic way, you got the non-chaotic way. And ego is, another word for ego is flesh, right? And we have to understand that the positive sides, let's break this down. So positive sides of ego. I'm going to say the positive sides of ego. Positive sides of ego are self-worth, confidence, passion, resiliency, just reaching those goals that you have to, you know, perseverance. That's a part of ego that we need in our lives in order to thrive, in order to continue to do what we do, in order to be successful in our life. We need that ego. We need that inside of ourselves to tell us that, you know, I got this. We got it going. You know, I'm gonna make this shit happen. You know, I'm gonna do what I have to do to make it happen. I'm going to alter my life. I'm going to change my life. I'm this type of person. I'm the shit. You know, ego really just helps you persevere. It really gets you through the most hardest times in life, because ego it's just a mindset. Ego is just a mindset. And to have that mindset of, I'm gonna do what I have to do in order to make me happy and successful, I'm gonna go do it regardless of what obstacles I face, what challenges I face, because I'm gonna face these challenges head on. I'm gonna face these obstacles head on because in my mind I got it. In my deep mind, in my subconscious mind, in my egotistical mind, I can do whatever I gotta do to make it happen because I'm me. I'm gonna make it happen. That's the positive side of ego. Negative side of ego is flesh. I call it flesh. And I read in this book actually, it's called Man versus Male. And it's about basically how it separates man and male. It separates the differences. And one thing that us men and male do is the ego, it's the flesh. The flesh wants to be served. That ego wants to be served instead of being of service. That ego wants to be helped upon instead of helping. So a bad thing about ego is, like I said, it's defensive. You can get defensive. You can real live like screw people over off of your benefit. Your you're self-centered. That's one main thing. You're self-centered, and either you're cocky as hell or you're insecure as hell. Either one when it comes to ego. There's no either or. That ego feels insecure. It wants to feel validated, so it goes out to do things to other people and hurt their feelings because you want to be validated. That's ego. It just really comes a long way because ego really, it doesn't just affect us. It affects the people around us. It affects how we make others feel. It affects how people really perceive us. It can affect our first impression on people, and really deeply, like I'm saying in my other podcast episode, whatever you put into the world is what you get back. So whatever that egotistical ego that you put into the world, you're going to get that shit back in return, and it's not going to be good. You're not going to People are not going to want to be around you because that you want to be stroked the way that you want to be, because you feel like that's the way you have to be stroked in order for you to feel how you want to feel, which is validated from others. And we have to understand that it's really just a freaking mindset. And once you realize that ego is only just a mindset of what we perceive on things, for example, a lot of people in society wants to get famous. They perceive it as, I just want to be out there. I just want to be known. I don't care what I do. I'll do whatever I got to do to get that attention. And that's ego. You do whatever you have to do to get that attention. That goes from a thirst trap. That goes from literally just having a PSA conversation about somebody else's business that don't need to be concerned of, and it's just that seeking for attraction, that seeking for validation. You're just seeking, like I said, you want to be served. Ego, the flesh, you just want to be served. You want people just surround you, and you just be the middle of the circle. You just be the star, the light of the star. And that really just hurts us. It hurts who we are as individuals, because having ego, it just really changes things in life. And ego keeps you on your own perspective because you don't want to look at anybody else's perspective because you think yours is right. When that ego kicks in, you just want to look at your perspective and not at anybody else's perspective. But once you realize that there's more than one perspective, there's more than one you, there's more than one, way to feel, there's more than one way to go at it, we get in denial, we get defensive because we feel like we're being attacked when it's just our ego that's being attacked. And we have to understand that we need to be humbled sometimes. We need to be embarrassed sometimes. We just need to understand that it's okay to feel that way too, because these are just emotions. These are just emotions that we're feeling, and our ego doesn't have to get in the way of our emotions, because that's just what we're feeling at the moment. That's just what we have to face at the moment. But that doesn't mean that ego has to come out and has to get defensive and has to hurt this person and have to feel validated. But however, the good side of ego, as in your self-worth, your self-confidence, your perseverance, your desires, your passions, your talent, those are your egos, the good side. You got to always have a good side and a bad side. Just focus on having more of the good side. I know I said balance, but focus more on having more on the good side. Focus more on yourself. Ego as in yourself, as in do the things that you need to do to get to the places that you need to go to be happy and be successful in life. And the things that you're going to do need to be genuine, need to be authentic, and they just need to be real. They need to be you. They need to be coming from you. They need to be coming from your genuine self with your genuine positive vibes, positive energy. That's just be of service. You doing you showing your talent, you being perseverant. You're showing your service of I can serve somebody else. I can serve myself. You serving yourself is a great way of ego when it comes to, it can actually be a good or bad thing when it comes to you serving yourself. It depends. But we all have to serve ourselves. And a good way to serve ourselves is through the positive ego, like I said, through knowing your self-worth, knowing your value, your self-values, knowing your talents, knowing your passion, just knowing the things that you do in life and the things that you bring into the table. That's the great ego. Just knowing that you are that guy, you are that woman, like knowing you're him, you're her. That's the positive side of ego. That's the ego that we need. But feeling like we need to be validated, feeling like we need to show attention in order to get what we want, that's the bad side of ego. Fucking people over just to get what we want in life and doing them wrong, that's the bad part of ego. Being self-conceited and not being of service from everybody else, that's the bad part of ego. So there's always a good and a bad. We just have to understand that these goods and bads, it's just a thing. Ego is a thing that we have. And to be honest, we need it. We really need ego, because without it, I would not be doing this podcast. Without it, I would not be on camera. Without it, I wouldn't have the guts enough just to speak more than I've ever spoken in a year. Without ego, I would not be doing any of this. However, just because of ego, I am. Also, just because of ego, I sometimes do get defensive when it comes to me feeling attacked on how somebody's talking to me just because I feel like I'm being attacked. However, I try to, instead of getting defensive, I communicate how I feel at the moment, and I just communicate that, is this what I think it is, to make sure I'm not tripping, and just really change your perspective. That's a whole nother reason why I have this podcast, just to change everybody's perspective and understand that there's more than one perspective. And when you look at more than one perspective, that's openness. When when the ego is bad, your mind is closed off. Your mind is like, I don't want to focus on that. I have one mindset and one mindset only. However, when that positive side of ego comes in, I want to look at different perspectives. I want to see what other ways I can look at it to not only help me change my mind on it, but to help me alter it so it won't happen again, or I can change my thinking pattern on it, or I can change any routine on it. That's just the positive side of ego. We have to understand that. But that's really pretty much it. Just understand the positive sides of ego and the negative sides of ego, and just understand that it's just like yin and yang, okay? We need both. It's a balance. We have both. Okay, just understand that. Be of service. Do not seek to be served. Young men, do not seek to be served. Seek to be of service. Seek to be of service for those who are in need. I promise you, that's the best ego boost you ever get, because you're showing others that they are validated. And I feel like my superpower is to show others their superpower. And for a person who's an Aries, and for a person who just has a somewhat ego, I just love the validation of validating others. I love validating how others feel. I love helping others recognize and understand their superpowers, and just understanding who they are as a person. That I just feel that's just one ego boost that I have. That's the main ego boost that I have, and that's mainly why I keep doing what I'm doing, because I just love it. I feel like I'm the shit when I get on here. I feel like the whole world is just shining on me at the moment, so I can just share the things that I've witnessed and the things that I've learned through in my life. And that's just the positive side of ego. That's the positive side. We just have to understand and find that yin and yang balance. That's it. Understand that there is a yin and yang balance. Understand that there's a yin and yang balance, and we're going to be good. Other than that, though, I really do appreciate you guys for tuning in. I know it's a short episode, but ego, understand that ego is not good, it's not bad, it's a thing. However, understand that you can use it a lot for good. You can really use it a lot for good, and also understand that whatever you put into this loving world is what this loving world will give back to you. And if you put in unloving things in this world, expect unloving things back. And that goes from ego too as well. Other than that, continue to be who you are. Continue to be yourself. Continue to be authentic. And always never forget to stand out. Other than that, I'll see you next week. Peace.